Welcome to my podcast, Rashad in Conversation. Today, I'm joined by Lilly Caskey. Lilly began her career in quality as a technical apprentice with Leonardo UK right after completing GCSEs. She spent over 6.5 years there, and then her career went from strength to strength as she progressed to a project assurance engineer and then a supplier quality engineer. She recently joined Red Bull Advanced Technologies as a supplier quality engineer and won the International Quality Award for Emerging Talent in 2024, following on from being a finalist in 2023. Aside from her day-to-day role, she is passionate advocate for the profession, encouraging and inspiring the next generation to actively choose a career in quality. Lily, I'm excited to have these conversations. Hello.
Hello.
Congratulations on being a finalist 2 years in a row and finally
Yeah,
winning in
yeah.
2024.
2 years of stress.
It paid off. It paid
Yeah,
off.
it did,
Um,
and it was worth it.
Fantastic. Why don't you share with our listeners about your career journey? How did it all start? How did you get into quality?
So, I personally feel like nobody starts their career thinking quality is where I want to end. I did my GCSEs and I was not academic at all. I hated exams. It was like the worst time of my life. And if you ask anyone that was near me at that time, they would say I was pretty horrific. I just did not enjoy exams, but I loved engineering and loved how hands-on it was, and also loved how creative it was as well. And so I was adamant I was not going to do A levels and was not going to go to university and do that traditional route. So I started to apply for some apprenticeships because I thought that was sort of the next best thing, kind of training and getting paid. Who wouldn't love that? So I applied to a couple of companies, and Leonardo really stood out to me purely because they did what's called a 360 degree apprenticeship. So you don't go in and specialise straight away. So me at 16, I was thinking, oh, I want to be a hardware engineer. I really wanted to design PCBs. That was it. That's all I wanted to do. And so I spent 3 years moving around all the different departments. So I did 3 months in project management. I did procurement, mechanical, literally you name a department, I probably spent time in there. And it was really good to get an understanding of everything because you learnt the challenges of what that department faced. And then when you went into your next placement, if you were sat in a meeting and mechanical was saying, oh, we can't meet that time frame because of X, Y, and Z, you knew why, and you also knew why they'd come to the decision
Mhm.
that they couldn't meet that time frame. So you got a really good understanding of everything. And then I spent 3 months in quality, which was actually during lockdown. So I had done a month in the department and then we hit lockdown, and then I did 2 months remote. And although I did it remotely, I still loved it. I loved the data analytics side of things. I loved how nosy you could be because in quality you get to know everything. And I am quite a nosy person. I love to be in the details of everything. So I said to the head of quality at the time, if there is a spot for me at the end, because we had to specialise in our final year, I'd love for you to consider me. And he said, yeah, Lily, we're 2 years away from that point, so come back to me when you've done the rest of them. And I'd still kept in contact with him, going, just to let you know, I really want to be part of quality team. And then an opening came up, and he said to me, well, if you don't want to take the spot, we're going to have to go external and you probably won't have a spot. And I said, no, I'll do it. I'll go in there. So I specialised 3 months early. So I spent a good amount of time in quality. Throughout that time, I sort of bounced around a couple of different roles. So I started off being predominantly project engineering, so dealing
Mhm.
actively with the shop floor issues. So spent some very early mornings with the project and that team, and it was really good to get an understanding of what the shop floor did with that product and how it moved around and how the human factor side of things played into it. And then I decided I'd had enough of product quality and really wanted to see the other side of things. So decided to move into supplier quality. And again, that was really good because not only did I get to see the issues internally, I got to see the external issues that you don't always see and the day-to-day running of that supplier. And again, it was really good because you get to see even more of it and get to be even more nosy. So it was perfect. And then I sort of hit a 6-year mark at Leonardo and I'd grown up with them. So my whole career had been with them, and joining them at 16 and getting to 23 years old, I sort of felt like I didn't really know if I actually knew what I was talking about. Obviously, I'd won the award, I was a finalist, but there's still part of you that thinks, oh, do I only know this company? Do I know what they do and how quality works there? If I was to move externally, how would I cope? So had an and ah, thought, do I want to stay in aerospace? Do I want to try something new? And decided, you know what, if I'm going to make a change, I'm going to go the other end of the scale. So I decided to join Redwood Advanced Technologies, working in the automotive industry. And it's been one of the best decisions. There are still times where I go, oh, do I know what I'm talking about? But that's the good part about it, because it really pushes you out of your comfort zone. Even just talking to new people and new engineers saying, this is why quality is important, it really does push you in a new way. So yeah, that's a little bit of how I ended up in quality. It
Well,
wasn't what I thought I was going to do, but I'm here.
but no, that's brilliant, and I have to say, Lily, your energy and enthusiasm is infectious as well. So I really love it, and the fact that it's all about being nosy. Well, yes, curiosity. Whether you're a quality professional or any business leader
Yeah.
in any discipline, curiosity is your strongest asset. If
Oh,
you're not
100%.
curious, a lot will pass you by, and you'll be left behind basically. But that curiosity will help you inquire, investigate, learn, understand,
Yeah.
think, create, innovate. Absolutely.
I think
Absolutely.
if you're not curious, then you're sort of just willing to have like an easy life. And I think curiosity is a really good foundation to have going into quality, because nobody knows everything. And going into quality is one of those jobs that you can pick up. And it's a really good one that if you aren't book smart, you can pick it up because it's so practical. And I think just having that curiosity and that drive to want to go out and, or even listening to somebody at the desk next to you chatting about some issue that they've got, it's really good because you pick up on little things. So yeah, I think curiosity is a good basis to have for any role, really.
Absolutely. And we're not gonna cover today in this episode about the self-doubt. We'll leave that offline
Yeah.
for another time. But all I'll say is I totally agree with you that quality, the experience in quality and the principles that we operate with are transferable. So you will find lots of similarities because the principles don't change. They're all the same, and then it's just about applying it in that specific context to your end. But that's brilliant, and I won't tell you when I was 23 because I can't even remember when I was 23. But that is remarkable for your early career, Lily. Thank you so much for sharing this experience. I've introduced you as an International Quality Award finalist and winner. And normally I ask my guests every time if they have a success story they want to share with other professionals. Would it be too presumptuous of me to assume that your success story will be your award? And if it is, I'm sorry in advance.
That's okay. Yeah, no, 100%. I think for me, that's the biggest thing I could have accomplished in my career at such an early point in it as well. I think you can't really get higher than the CQI awards. Like that is the end goal, really. So yeah, that's definitely my biggest success.
Fantastic. Do you want to talk us through a little bit about the project? What was the submission about, and how did you experience that whole process?
Yeah, so I think I can probably give quite a unique view on it because obviously I did the process twice. So I had never heard about the International Quality Awards until one of the heads of quality sent me a link to it and said, oh, the deadline's really close. This was the first year, 2023. He said, oh, the deadline's in about a week, but really think you should go for it. So I had a look at the application, and the part I loved about it was that it's so open-ended. You get 5 questions that you can take however you want and go in whatever direction you want. So I, throughout my whole apprenticeship and time at Leonardo, was a massive advocate for quality and also just getting younger people into STEM, because I was in a primary and secondary school that really pushed it. So I did an engineering GCSE. In my primary school, we used to have engineering weeks where they would have an external company come in and you'd make a little toy, and that was like the highlight for me. So I really wanted to make sure that I could give back to some schools,
Excellent.
especially in the local area. I think a lot of my submission was about how a lot of the time companies will go for the high achieving schools, and that's brilliant because we need those people that are striving to go to the really top universities and want to be the top of their game. But I also like working with the underprivileged schools because they're sometimes the most interesting people you ever talk to. Like, some of these kids are so clever and they're so smart, but unfortunately they're at a school where they don't get the right funding or they don't have the access to the best tools and equipment. So by having that connection with them and being able to show, look, you don't need to have a massive academic background to get into quality or even engineering, I think that goes a long way. And so one of the projects I was really involved with at Leonardo was something called Rampaging Chariots. So it was a little mini robot war. So I was lucky enough to project manage it my first and second year. And throughout that time, we send a kit to a school and they get to build their own chariot.
Oh,
So they do all the soldering for their PCBs, they get to fit all the components, and then they get to design it and make it as bold as they want to. There was obviously some rules. You can't have massive long screws hanging out at the end, safety and all of that. But it was really good to just get those underprivileged schools involved and also just provide them the opportunity, because we used to go into the schools and once a month they'd be able to ask us questions, or if they'd really been struggling with soldering, then you could go in and you could show them sort of some tips and tricks to do it. So it was really good. And then we got to have a day where they came into the office and they got to battle it out with all the other schools in the
wow.
local area. So that was sort of what my whole application was focused around, of that early careers and making sure that people know that STEM is an option and there are so many different aspects to it.
That's inspirational. That's inspirational. Brilliant. How many robots did you help build in the end?
Oh my God, so many. You used to find, so there was a cut-off point and there was a lot of late nights. So the schools had to give them in to us. I think it was about 2 or 3 weeks before the actual event. And in that 2 and 3 weeks, we had to fix all of them. So some of them would come in and they weren't working at all. So we'd be in there until about like 1 in the morning trying to fix these PCBs. It was a nuts time, but being a 17-year-old in like their first job, it was brilliant. Having late nights playing around with PCBs, yes please. So yeah, so many. And then throughout the day as well, we had a technical bay. So if any broke during competition, they would be rushed back in and people would have to manically fix boards and swap bits in and out. So yeah, over the 2 years, I must have fixed countless, countless.
Wow. But I have to say, that sounds like a really buzzing event to be part of.
Yeah, it's really fun, and it brings the enjoyment into it, because I think a lot of people think that, oh, a career in STEM or a career in quality is quite a boring job. You're not going to really get anywhere with it. But bringing that excitement into it to show them, look, you've had so much fun building. That's basically what you do. And you can make your job as fun as you want to.
Mhm.
And it's all about that. For me, I've been very lucky. I found a career that I love, and I wake up every morning excited to go into work. You don't want to be in a job where you get out of bed going, oh, not again.
Not
So,
again.
yeah, I think it's just making sure that they are enjoying it and carrying that through.
Well, once again, congratulations, Lily, on being awarded as the winner of the Emerging Talent 2024. If I flip the coin right now and I ask you about an incident at work, or in your day-to-day life where working with the quality principles helped save the day, anything comes to mind?
Yeah, so we're currently going through the process of getting ISO 9001, and that as a whole is just a beast to implement into a company, especially in a company like Redwood Advanced Technologies. It's so fast paced. Like, we have to get things moving, and you have to break down the quality principles to the business language of the business, and
Mhm.
making sure that you're not going in with all of this jargon and big words that engineers don't care about. Like, they like it simple. So I really like the plan, do, check, act cycle. I love that. I think it's such a simple but effective tool to use. And we've been using that to sort of break down the different sections of ISO 9001 and make sure that what we're putting in actually works. So, yeah, I think that's probably the biggest challenge at the moment. But I think keep it simple to start with. There's no point shooting for the stars. You need to get people involved and build up their knowledge of quality to start with. And that's how you bring them on the journey with you. There's
Mhm.
nothing worse than going into a meeting and expecting engineers that don't really care about quality to automatically join you on the journey. You've got to start at their level. And that's probably been one of the hardest things I found in my career, is making sure that I take people on that journey. And it's still something I am learning now, and it's something I'm going to forever be learning. But it is making sure that you realise, okay, these people haven't got the experience I've got. They've not had the experiences either. So let's start from the basics and start from scratch.
I'm a believer in the reality that the most difficult jobs are the jobs that involve people.
Yes.
So you can have, even if you are in the same role, in the same organization, and your internal customers and stakeholders change, that journey will change, that their reality will change. You'll have to take them again on that journey, and it's a never-ending cycle. And people tick differently, and the more you interact with different people, the more your journey will change, the
Yes.
interactions will change.
100%. I think quality can be quite an emotive topic. I think when you have an issue and you are running on short deadlines, stress plays a massive factor, and it's learning how to manage people's expectations as well. And that's something that's really good with having a simple thing like a plan, do, check, act, or even in the 8D process, is you get to manage people's expectations the whole way through, and they're not going to come into that first meeting expecting it to all be fixed straight away. So, yeah, completely agree. People are one of the biggest factors in making sure anything goes right.
Absolutely. Lily, a professional like yourself who's truly early on in her career, I'm very tempted to ask, what's next? What are the top sort of focus that you think about in the next months or year or years that you want to sort of focus on?
Yeah, so I'm currently doing my Green Belt Lean Six Sigma training. So my goal for the short term, so sort of the next 3 to 6 months, is to complete my project and get my certificate from that. But I'm also working towards my CQI membership to be a practitioner by the end of the year. That's my goal. Um,
Fantastic.
yeah, I set that as my New Year's resolution, that by the end of the year I was going to have practitioner. So we'll see how that goes.
Brilliant.
So that's sort of the next year. Um, but my end goal really is to be a quality manager of some sort. Um, when I had my interviews for Red Bull, they asked me the same question, and my current manager was there. And I said, well, you're currently sitting in the role I'd like, so no pressure. But I've said that to all of my quality managers I've had, of like, don't worry, you're just keeping my seat warm for when I eventually get there.
Yeah. Well, that's not a bad strategy to have, and the sky's the limit. And being a practitioner at the CQI and having your green belt will open up lots of sort of spark ideas and improvement projects, and you would look into that quality framework with different sort of eyes as well.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
good luck with those plans.
Thank you.
This is really a very energetic conversation, Lily. My final question is, are there any podcasts or books or blogs that you tend to tap into to keep yourself up to date?
Well, obviously we're on this podcast now, but that tends to be the podcast that I listen to on my drive to work. It's one that, yeah, is always in my circulation. And my partner, who isn't involved in quality at all, I'm always telling him about it as well. And so on my drive to work, I'll be messaging him of like, oh, no, you're not going to listen to the whole thing, but listen to this bit. So he's not involved in quality at all, but yeah, it's definitely one that I enjoy. But as a whole, I tend to not really listen to any other quality podcasts. I think, yeah, it's just something that I normally don't have time for. But
Yeah.
this is one I always listen to.
Well, I am very honored that you do so. So thank you very much for doing that and for sharing the feedback. And hopefully one day your partner gets to listen to a full episode. Um, That's good. That's good. Lily, let's get to know you as a person rather than as the quality professional.
Yeah.
Quick fire questions
Okay.
without thinking about them, just go straight for the answer. Iced coffee or iced tea?
Iced coffee.
A train ride or a flight?
Mm, probably a flight.
Any new coming flights in the near future?
Uh, yeah, quite a lot of supplier trips, but then I'm also going on holiday to Greece, so
Good.
that will
Well,
be
that
nice.
sounds fantastic. Cinema or theater?
Cinema.
And finally, a beach holiday or a city break?
Oh, it depends. I do love a city break, but yeah, it depends on what time of year.
So do I suspect, is Greece going to be a beach holiday or a city break? Or both?
It's a bit of both.
Perfect, perfect. The best of both worlds. Well, thank you so much for this lovely conversation, Lily. You have been listening to Rashad in Conversation with me, your host, Rashad Isa. If you enjoyed this episode, please hit subscribe, follow, or download as I bring you monthly guests from around the world to share their stories of the quality profession.